Hello, everybody. Welcome again to another edition of Warm Toast at the Players Cup. I'm Steve Dodge, and today I'm joined by Disc Golf Planet's very own John Duesler. Hello, John. How are you today?
Steve, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
We're honored that you could join us. The first question that I would have for you is, who are you, and why are you so great that we should care about your Players Cup picks?
Well, the first one I can answer pretty quickly. I'm John Duesler, and I have the great privilege of being the founder of DiscGolfPlanet.tv that our disc golf fans around the world have been watching for the last 2 years. The other question's a little bit interesting because I come from an area that I'm rooting for good competition rather than individual players, but you're putting me in a little bit of a predicament here by working these brackets, but I've embraced the challenge, Steve, and I look forward to letting you know what I think.
Just so you know, John, in all honesty, I interviewed myself first. I put my own picks out there, so that is, and it's an entertaining interview because I talk about how I didn't shave.
Yes, I think I caught that a little bit.
Back and forth, yes. Yeah. So before we go into that, do you have a favorite disc that you'd want to mention? What is the coolest disc that John Duesler owns?
Wow, it's interesting. My role in disc golf is really off the course, not necessarily throwing discs. I mean, I've been marketing and promoting and broadcasting disc golf. So it's interesting. I am really a Beast fan. I love the Beast. It's a great disc. It's just stable enough for me that it holds the line. And so that would be, if I had to pick a driver or really a disc, that would be my go-to. Now, I have to tell you that I've had a disc, a green, this like obscenely lime green putter, and it's an Omega AP that I've been putting with for years and years and years, even before Vibram was making discs. So I've had that disc in my bag, and I always call that my money disc. So those were the two discs that I really I would rely on for situations.
The Omega AP is a very impressive disc indeed. They do a good job.
Yeah.
So let's jump right into the brackets. And what I would like to ask you is, quadrant by quadrant, what your favorite Sweet 16 matchup is. So
Sweet 16 would be, that's round 3,
that's
right?
Round 3. And we can jump any quadrant that you'd like to start in. I actually don't have the bracket in front of me, but I've got it up here.
So I'm glad one of us is prepared.
So
I'm sure you have it memorized, but I'll tell you, it's really interesting because I'll just give you a little sort of my method of madness, on choosing these matches. This is a really strange time of year for disc golf because it's been a long season. Many of the touring pros have been on the road. We just had our big USDGC. We had the PDGA championships, right. And I just can only imagine how taxed these players, especially the touring players, are. So I see these great matchups in the semis where I sort of had to look at it and say, who's really more prepared for the intensity of the Players' Cup match play? So I have to tell you that one of my favorite matchups I have in the Sweet 16 is Paul McBeth and Ricky Wysocki. I have Paul McBeth beating Ricky, but the thing is, Ricky is amazing. He's a young player, and he obviously won the PDGA championship this year. Mm-hmm. I just think that Paul won 2 NTs, so I mean he hasn't had a down year at all. But I think Paul is actually more rested. I think that he is more consistent at this point, and I'm sure Rick will give him a great battle. But I'm going to go with Paul McBeth in that Sweet 16 matchup.
So then you would have Paul.
I have another one.
Oh, go please continue.
Yeah, thank you. The other one that I really am intrigued by, and I sort of had to think about this for a second, is Cale Leviska and Avery Jenkins in the bottom quadrant. I think that, and I just truth be told, I picked Cale to beat Avery, and again, it's hard for me because these are all friends, but and I'm sure it'll be a great competition. I think that the bottom line is, I just think Cale is, again, Avery did not play in the USDGC. I think Cale's been sort of laying low for about the last month. I know he's had some things going on, but I honestly, by analyzing this, I just look at Kale as really the complete package. And I have to tell you, Steve, that Kale Visca is really one of these. It's funny how his career has just been so outstanding, but he's really flown below the radar in a lot of circles. And he is just an outstanding player, a world's finalist many times, immensely talented. So I'm going to give Kale the nod in that match.
Okay, fantastic. So you've got Kale going up, I presume, against Josh in the Elite Eight there.
I do.
And you've got Paul going up against, I assume, Dave Feldberg in the Elite Eight on the other bracket.
I do have him going up against Feldberg. Now, it was interesting because I have him playing Phil Arthur to advance.
All right.
Phil had just a crazy USDGC. He had an incredible opening round to qualify. And sort of, I don't know what happened to him. He didn't have a great opening round, and the scoring was just so, it was different. And Dave's one of these guys too, where I fear for his the fatigue factor, especially because match play there's little room for error. But I do have Dave going up against Paul in that Elite Eight round. So,
okay, fantastic. Let's jump to the Nate Doss bracket quadrant, which is I think the PDGA quadrant.
Okay, great. Well, I have Nate Doss playing Will Schustrick in the quarters. And I have Nate beating Jay to get there. I have Will beating Paul Dories to get into the quarterfinals.
Right.
That was a tough one. And essentially what I did there was I just think that Nate is just having perhaps one of the greatest years of any disc golfer in the PDGA. I mean, especially modern day PDGA. You could look at Kenny when he dominated, Barry dominated, but the talent pool is so deep now that I just think this is the year for Nate. And again, Nate is rested. So Nate, I think he's going to really be ready to roll in Texas. I beg your pardon.
Yeah. So you see him getting by Will Schustrick?
I do.
Okay. And just so I know, in the Elite Eight, who is he meeting down there?
Well, I might surprise you a little bit. Who is Will meeting?
No, who is Nate going to meet after defeating Will? Soundly, you said Soundly, right?
This is my this is my sleeper pick. I have Eric McCabe beating Nico LaCastro to get into the semis.
Very nice, very nice.
Yeah.
I think I have Eric McCabe beating Nick Gagne to get into the semis.
Okay,
so
there you go. That's good. Nick's a nice player too. I don't have Nick going as far. I have Adam Hunt beating him, and this is whenever you get those 4 or 5 matchups. And again, I think Nick's good. I like Nick's game a lot. I don't know if he's consistent enough. It was really a hunch more than anything.
Right. Yes.
But then I have Nico beating Adam, and I have then Eric beating Nico. And I'll tell you why, Steve. Nico over the course of multi rounds is just a phenomenal player, and of course, But what happens, again, this is intensity. And I don't think any player in disc golf manifests intensity more than Nico. And I think, again, when he's in a situation with so little room for error, that I just don't know if he's really going to be able, versus Eric, of course, Eric is a little more low-keyed. I think he's more of a patient player, and of course, with his putting skills, his renowned putting skills, when he needs to make that big putt to push a hole or something like that. No, sorry, Nico. I'm going to give Eric the nod to go into the semifinals.
John,
Nate.
Just right, and just so I know, do you know who won the Players' Cup last year? Sorry.
It was. I remember. Wasn't it Ben? I'm sorry. Garrett Gerthy was in the finals against.
In fact, Nico won the whole thing.
Nico won the whole. Okay, yeah. I was going to say. I thought Nico won last year, but
so he managed to do a great job last year, and it's funny. We both have him going out before the Final Four, which is interesting.
Well, I have to tell you, the fact of the matter is that as a Philadelphia Phillies fan, this is part of my calculus as well, where the Phillies were obviously predicted to go really far to win the World Series. In fact, it was the 5-game series that really and that really changed how the Phillies performed, and it was a shorter, less room for error. And I think the same is true with match play. When there's less room for error,
Right.
anything's possible. And so even your most your favored players can be tripped up, and that's in fact what I have with Eric beating Nico.
Absolutely. Just a couple of bad putts, and next thing you know, you're sitting down.
That's it.
It's very easy. So you've got Nico and Nate and Cale and Paul Macbeth making the final four.
The final 8, yes. I have actually Dave beating
Oh,
Paul.
Dave. Okay. So
And,
go ahead. So who do you have winning the whole thing? Who's your total Players Cup champion?
Well, I'll start from my semifinal rounds. I have Dave Feldberg and Josh Anton meeting in the semis.
Right.
And I have Josh beating Dave. Again, and it was simply just because Josh has been on the precipice of just greatness. I mean, he's an amazing player. And I think he's more rested than Dave. So I have Josh beating Dave. And then I have Nate beating Eric. And so what an amazing, again, it's almost reminiscent of the of the World Championships where Nate sort of had to hold Josh off a little. Josh was on a tear in the Worlds. But the two good friends from Northern California, I predict, will do battle in the finals. And my winner will be the 2011 World Champion Player of the Year and just great guy, Nate Doss beating Josh Anton.
So this is just going to be a capstone for his 2011 season.
That's the way I see it, Steve.
Fantastic. John, we've been very blessed to have you here. Thank you very much for taking the time out. I will ask you one more question.
I want to just wish all... Oh. Okay, I'm ready.
I'm going to guess there's about a half-second delay in our phone call. I'm going to ask one last question. For all the viewers out there, if they want to grow the sport, if they want to grow disc golf, if they want to grow the Players Cup, what is one thing that you would recommend any particular person watching you right now? What would you tell them to do?
The best thing that anyone can do, and this is my whole philosophy, and people will disagree with this, but I have a top-down philosophy in disc golf. Versus the grassroots philosophy where we need to grow from the grassroots. My personal preference is top-down. So what that means in practical terms, Steve, is that when you are on a disc golf course and when you are even playing casually, that you are on your best behavior, you're a good sportsman, and if things don't go well, you handle yourself beautifully, be friendly on the course, set a great example. Because the top-down philosophy of disc golf is that if we show how great disc golf can be, if we show how great it can be, then we will lift up the whole sport because people will say, wow, this is really something. And that's been our philosophy with Disc Golf Planet. We're broadcasting the best in disc golf. I feel that individually, players, if they perform well, if they handle themselves great on the course, good sportsmanship, good camaraderie, then we will grow the sport. It's a can't miss.
Ditto. Bringing the spirit of the disc to the game.
Yes, sir.
It's fantastic. I couldn't agree more, John. Thank you.
Thank
you very much. Have a grand evening and enjoy the rest of your night there in Pennsylvania.
Steve, good luck to you down in Texas, and I wish all our competitors great luck and enjoy yourselves. Good luck, everybody.
Thanks, John. Good luck in your bracket.
Thank you kindly. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.